And this brings us on to SEL. What is social and emotional learning? Well, this is a framework drawn up by CASEL, the Collaborative for Social and Emotional Learning, CASEL. And they've outlined 5 competencies. And they all relate to raising awareness of our self-identity and our relationship to other people. So if we look at these 5 core competencies and think about how they contribute to the kind of learning environment and the relationships that you want in your classroom. And not only in your classroom, but they are relationships that can be fostered in the school generally and in the community. So self-awareness. Self-awareness is about how we know and understand ourselves, our emotions, our thoughts, our identities. How do we feel in any given situation? Why do we feel that way? How do we understand ourselves? How can I accurately understand myself? How do I fit into my community, my job, my family, the world? Do I have a strong sense of identity? And if I do, that strong sense of identity helps like a buffer against negative life experiences. And it supports academic, social, emotional outcomes. So when we focus on self-awareness, we're giving learners opportunities to think about their own experiences, their own emotions. How do they deal with things? And very often this is kind of avoided in the classroom. But if you have a strong awareness, then that's going to help you process emotions and experiences and communicate in helpful ways. So they're all part of the learning process. So just take a moment to reflect. How does self-awareness, what does it mean to you in your life? How does it connect? And how can you use it to support your learners? This is a trust building activity where one person is the guide and the other person closes their eyes and essentially blind. And this is useful because we rely on our sight to perceive the world. And as soon as you close your eyes and do some of these blind exercises, then you become much more aware of the other senses. How the other senses enhance our capacity for perceiving the world in different ways. And also reflecting on the activity, it's interesting because some people find it very difficult to keep their eyes closed. So this is an issue in terms of trust, but in trusting yourself and trusting your partner. So this can lead to reflections about how do we cope with difficulties. Did you open your eyes in the activity? If not, how did you resist the temptation to open your eyes? And if you did open your eyes, how can you handle? I mean, very often we're on doing a task, and we get intrusive thoughts come into our minds. So how do you handle these intrusive thoughts that are trying to distract you from a task that may be difficult? And often it's the reflection on these activities that involves self-disclosure, and that's where the learning opportunities are enhanced. Another way of um, raising self-awareness is through personalization. I mean, this is something that we can do in the classroom in many ways. I mean, by showing interest in the learners' lives, how they feel about activities in the class, by asking open-ended questions, eliciting responses, by highlighting learners' contributions. And an activity that I like is what I call I statements, where essentially you have sentence stems which the learners complete for themselves. So, for example, my favourite place at home is in front of the television, by the fire. So they can be practicing specific language, like prepositions of place or describing. So number 1 and 5 are describing spatial relations. On a bus, I like to sit near the back or near the window. Or they can be focused on other grammar areas. I love verb plus ing. Gerund, I love dancing. Or I hate. And then once the learners have written sentences about themselves, then they can share this information with their partners. And this is all part of raising awareness and self-disclosure, as well as a controlled practice activity for language. Self-management is not just understanding who I am and how I feel, but what am I doing with this information? How am I managing my feelings? How do I turn my self-awareness and my emotions into positive actions that are going to make things better for myself and for others? How do I plan? How do I work towards goals I want to achieve? So when we focus on self-management, we give learners the opportunities to sort of process experiences, to reflect on experiences, and work towards goals. And this is something that adults need. I mean, this is an issue for adults as well. Very often as adults, we have to have strategies for coping with negative emotions, particularly on training courses, where very often I will get a trainee come to me and say, I worked very hard on the course, I did my best, I learnt a lot, but I'm very disappointed, I'm very upset, I can't get over this disappointment because I only got a pass grade and not a grade A. And you say, well, look, you've got no control over the grade, but you have got control over how you perceive your experience. And you've said that you worked very hard, you did your best, and you learnt a lot. I mean, these are all positive things. You know, why do you have a negative? Why are you putting a negative emotion onto your experience? How can you manage this? How can you overcome? How can you take agency? How can you take control of your emotions? This is an extension of the blind trust activity that I showed earlier. But here we raise the stakes. So it's about trusting yourself and trusting your colleagues. And basically this activity is where you run at a wall and you have to trust your colleagues that they will shout stop before you crash into the wall. And it's clear from the body language and purposefulness of the running how much control the participants feel.
Stop. Too late.
So some people are much more tentative than others, and then this can lead to reflections on the nature of risk, our desire to take or avoid risks. How do we manage our emotions, for example, in terms of our ability to trust ourselves and other people?
Stop.
I'm also a great believer in the power of positive affirmations. Um, so I'd like you to repeat these statements after me. So you can just repeat them in your head, or you can repeat them out loud if you're sitting in a room with nobody else around you. I am clever and smart. I am a fantastic teacher. My students are lucky to have me as their teacher. I am wonderful. I am wonderful. And I think if we say these positive affirmations to ourselves often enough, we start to believe it. And if we believe it is true, then it is true. Unfortunately, what happens is too often teachers, if you overhear teachers in the staff room, then very often they're saying the opposite things. They're saying negative things like, I'm not good enough. I have problems. My students are, etc., etc. We don't kind of confirm the positive things. Similarly with learners, I'm a great believer in giving positive feedback, giving praise. Obviously, it has to be genuine and it has to be seen as genuine. But if we acknowledge the positive behavior and ignore the negative behavior, that can have a major impact on the classroom atmosphere. I mean, very often learners, when they are behaving negatively, they are doing that in order to get attention to themselves. And if the teacher responds to that negative behavior, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, now be quiet or I'll send you out, etc. Then what we're doing is we're just reinforcing it because the learner realizes that the negative behavior is attracting our attention. We don't want that. We want the opposite. We want the learners to know that we are attracted to their positive behavior. Social awareness. This is about our ability to understand others, how they feel, to have empathy, and to put ourselves in the shoes of another person and to understand and appreciate their perspective. And when we focus on social awareness, we give learners opportunities to realize how other people are feeling, to show compassion, to show empathy, and understand other people. So it's all about accepting others, respecting others, including others, giving a sense of belonging. And this is really important in creating a positive learning atmosphere, because if you've got one or two students who feel not included, not welcome, out of the group, that is going to affect their motivation and achievement. This is a group activity where the group has to respond as a group. And these kind of activities help develop group cohesion, group cooperation, and raises awareness of others. Basically, this is a very simple activity. The group stands in a room and the leader says, okay, one person walking. And only one person in the group can walk, but they can decide when they want to stop. And as soon as they stop, somebody else has to start walking. But you need to be aware of what the whole group is doing, because only one person can walk until the instruction changes. And then it may be two people walking or three people walking or everybody walking. And then it can be reversed. Everybody walking, only one person standing still. Two people standing still. Okay, let's make it three people walking. This is a great team building activity which involves participants working together. Basically, everyone stands in a circle and thinks of a sound. And then they say the sound to their partner, to the person next to them in the circle. And then the circle disbands and everybody finds a space in the room, close their eyes. And the aim is, without opening your eyes, only listening to the sounds, try to find your partner and recreate the original circle.
I found
Try to find your own. Don't lose, once you've found somebody, don't lose them, but try to find the other one.
Yes, here.
It's too scary.
Relationship skills includes the things that we do when we interact with others. So leading to sort of positive, meaningful, supporting relationships. So it's basically, how do we communicate and how do we listen? How do we build on each other's ideas? How do we disagree? How do we cooperate? How do we lead? How do we help others? How do we rely on others? How do we ask for help? So we need to give opportunities for learners to develop these skills. And these are life skills, essentially. And if you have strong relationship skills, you know how to work together, you know how to share ideas, you know how to solve problems, you know how to speak up when there's something going wrong, you know how to listen, you know how to work out solutions, you know how to correct mistakes. These are all very useful skills. How do we develop them? Well, basically, we can give learners problem-solving activities. This is, as most of my activities are that I've shown, this is another physical activity, but it could be a mental activity or a social activity. This is a team problem-solving activity where one person is a zombie and the group have to work together to prevent the zombies sitting down. So there is one empty chair and the group have to make sure that they occupy the empty chair before the zombie can sit on it. I'll show you a brief demonstration. So the reflections on this activity can lead to interesting discussions. So how did the group work together? Was there a leader? How did you communicate? How effective was the communication? How did you solve the problems, etc. Responsible decision making. This involves the way we investigate a question or a problem to understand it in a deeper way, and thinking about the consequences or the possibilities of different decisions. So it's all about giving opportunities for learners to be open-minded, to find choices that are theirs, to be creative, how to gather information and use that information to make decisions, how to be critical thinkers, how to be creative thinkers. This activity is a group problem-solving activity again, where the learners are put into a knot. They're tied up as a knot, and they have to untie the knot. Take one hand and hold it. Now put your left hand into the middle and take a different hand, another hand. We have a problem here. We have created a knot. Without letting go of the hands, you have to keep hold of the hands. You have to unravel, untie the knot. Go.
I would really recommend this workshop to all teachers, because in this time, most of our students are so lethargic. They need lots of motivation. Okay, you find the students maybe they're hopeless, they are not interested. But if you did something new like the games, then it becomes engaging for them, and it gives them a sense of purpose. It gives them an immediate target to meet, and so they come up in the class. And what I love about this, it's not that it applies to a certain level. It can work across the levels, right from the young learners to the adults.
Reflections on this activity can be quite interesting because they can lead to discussions about how motivated were you to solve the problem? How did you feel when it became difficult to solve the problem? Did you want to give up? Did you give up? Who encouraged the group to continue? Did you solve the problem? What made you persevere? Was there a breakthrough? So this kind of reflection on problem solving is can lead to a discussion after the activity. Take one hand and hold So what next? Well, to sum up, I can say that no learning can take place if learners feel afraid, unsafe, depressed. So a safe and welcoming environment is critical if learning is to happen. Sometimes teachers will say things like, yeah, but I mean, social and emotional learning, I mean, I'm not a therapist. My job is to teach my subject, my content. It's not my position to deal with the learner's emotions and how they are feeling. But you don't need to be a therapist to show empathy and support. In fact, showing empathy and support is a very human characteristic, and I would say it's an essential quality of being a teacher as well. So we need a positive and learning environment is created through interactions and a positive group dynamic. And you can build these social relations and positive rapport and a positive group dynamic through participatory learning. So we need to engage the learners socially and avoid the idea of social control. So holistic education acknowledges the whole learner and we have to meet their physical, mental and emotional needs, as well as their needs for content. So to sum up, I would say the better the relationships in the classroom, the better teachers can teach and the better students can learn. And I do a number of, well, in the summer, I do a workshop called Facilitation Skills Masterclass, and it's over a weekend. And it's where I demonstrate a lot of these activities to develop facilitation skills, which obviously includes emotional and social and emotional learning, and developing a positive learning environment. Don't take my word for it. I will conclude by showing you testimonials from two of the people who did the workshop last year.
I can honestly say that this course was super fun and fabulous, and I do recommend it to all the teachers and managers who want to feel a kind of change in their teaching atmosphere.
Definitely join in the workshops here presented by Tom, because they are very interactive, very enjoyable. We had a lot of fun about the workshops and it's very informative. You get lots of ideas about how to integrate these facilitation skills into your classes. Because of that, I would definitely recommend these workshops to you.